Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 2. This is One-on-One with Alex Bellman. We are sponsored by the New Hampshire Business New Hampshire magazine. And today I have special guests, the co-founders of Birch on Elm and Noodz restaurants here in Manchester, New Hampshire. How's it going, guys?
What's up, dude?
Good, how are you?
So Joel and Nick are here to talk about your respective restaurants and what you've started and built, which is actually pretty sick. But let's start way back. Like,
Sounds
what
good.
got you guys excited? So, Nick, when you were a kid, like when you both have always been from New Hampshire, and you've
born and
gone
raised.
to other places and always come back. When you were a kid, what got you excited? Like, when did you first start getting excited about cooking?
I'd say it was probably around 10 or 11 years old when I could finally, like, I don't know, I would always follow my dad around. So, like, football Sunday, anything like that, he would always be grilling and cooking. And I, for some reason, just became fascinated with it. And from there, like, as a kid, if Sports Center wasn't on, it was Food Network. And there was just something about it. And at that age, I couldn't describe exactly what it was, but it started right about then. And from there, it just took off. When I was finally able to get a job, I hopped right into that industry without question. And pretty much been that way ever since. Locally at NATO's sub shop.
Really?
It was on the west side, though. I don't know if the location is still open, but yeah, just working on the sub line. Yeah, dude, it was crazy because honestly,
awesome.
It's weird too because that place kind of set a real tone of like how even higher end kitchens that I grew up work. You know what I mean? The simple things of setting your lineup, being prepared, and I'm gonna be honest, it's been close to. I don't think I've ever been getting my ass kicked as much as I have on making subs on that line.
Really?
It's just, and honestly, it's almost harder than cooking with pots and pans because you have to be really precise with how you lay everything in there. And it sounds crazy, especially with the food I cook lately, but it's like,
They were serious. That's why they're still in business, right?
Yeah.
They're very serious about how it has to be. So
Well, sandwiches are a very serious business.
they are very serious business.
they are delicious. You can't beat that.
That is your whole.
I don't care what food you know what I mean? Nothing beats a sandwich.
A good sandwich.
We even, dude, on Sunday mornings now, we do brunch. Not even Sunday morning, we do it all day brunch, and we now have a couple. It is more
Sandwiches?
like fun sandwich based, like beef tongue Reubens and some different out of the box stuff, but they're sandwiches nonetheless.
That's
They're
awesome.
good.
Yeah, breakfast for dinner every
Yeah.
Sunday at the Birch on Elm now.
All right,
11
that's
a.m.
gonna.
to 9 p.m.
I will absolutely be there. I
Sounds
haven't
good.
tried that yet. No,
It's
I'm all
good,
over
dude.
that.
It's nice.
It's a fairly new program.
It's fun.
it?
It's
Yeah.
just a fun day for everybody. The staff has fun with it. So
That's sick. So what got you excited? So you took a different route because you guys are partners, but you're the chef, and you're the director of.
Yeah, I started
Operations, basically.
front of house has always been my home when it comes to the hospitality industry, and I love bartending as a trade and as an art, really. And I've just always had a fascination with working with my hands, and I've always enjoyed it and some of the intricacies of like finer motor functions and things like that. And when I started bartending 10 years ago, roughly,
Yep.
just here on Elm Street. I've been working on Elm Street for almost 10 years now.
So when you were a kid,
And,
were you just as interested in all this stuff? Like, were you?
I was interested in like working with my hands, and I love tinkering
Right.
around with things, but it didn't really manifest itself into this industry until later in life. But you know, I've always loved like working on cars and just with like little fine craftsman stuff, like just stupid stuff. But now it's something that I really enjoy, and bartending turned into a very creative outlet for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you create the different creations that are at Birch's bar?
Some
you
of
behind?
them,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like I said, it's a collaborative effort between myself and some of the other employees behind the bar. But yeah, that's what I enjoy doing the most is some of the research and development and the recipe development in the back end. I mean, we have a whole little kitchen just for the bar out back at Birch, and that's where
cool.
I like to put my head down. And I'm making syrups, I'm making cordials, and trying to figure out like what ingredients can be expressed their best in like different formats. Like, is it something that I need to apply heat to make to extract the flavor, or is this better as like a cold processed like ingredient? And then like finding these ingredients best expression, and then turning them into like finding a way to fit them into a drink recipe. So it all comes.
Where did you
it all
first
comes
learn that?
together.
Like, where was the place where you went and you're like, because there's something must have kicked it off. Like, you must have gotten super excited about bartend. Like, that's a different level of bartending.
It is.
There's I bartend for money and just quick bartending. Here's a beer. Here's a quick Jack and Coke. And then there's that. There's like actual deep thought, skill, research that goes in each drink?
That started at 815, the Speakeasy, right
Yeah.
here on Elm Street. And I mean, at the time when I was hired there, I was just looking for a home. I was just looking for a company that I could work for, that I could really dig my hands into and like really enjoy myself working at. And it ended up being there. And the fascination with creating these new things started with learning how things are supposed to be done when in regards to the drinks from the past that are just so often screwed up in the industry now. And like just learning like how things are supposed to be done and how things were intended to be done, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Really just opened up my eyes to a
It's
whole different
weird,
side of
too.
the industry.
Because when I started, obviously, when I went out to eat, it was always more about food and learning, and I would always usually stick with wine. I always loved wine from when I turned 21 and like kind of started getting out and eating more at these refined places. And then once I met Joel and Jeremy and all these guys and started getting more into cocktails, I fell in love with certain ones. Like I love Negronis now, but if I don't go to a place that, I mean, obviously us or any place that is, you know, renowned for cocktails, if you go to even like a nicer restaurant and ask for a Negroni and you get like the full orange slice with like fake cherries and it's just like
Ruins
not,
everything.
you can even tell, you're like, ah, man, this is I can't go to a normal bar now. You just
you'd
got to
be
order a
surprised.
beer. or
Kinda
something.
ruined, yeah.
You'd be
it's like,
surprised
that's
how
it.
easy it is to screw up a 3-ingredient drink.
Yeah, like what is it? Daiquiri is one of the most.
Yeah, so the way to tell if you're in the right bar is to order a daiquiri.
Okay.
Because it's a 3-ingredient drink. It's rum, lime juice, and sugar. And if you can't trust a bartender to balance the flavors of a 3-ingredient drink, then how are they supposed to make properly the
Then get a
5,
beer.
6, 7-ingredient drinks on their menus?
I've never had one, but I'll come by. I'll order
Yeah.
that, and then I'll have to go to other bars and then start testing it out and
Yeah.
see if they
And
screw
just
it
to
up or
scare
not.
him, if you get Devo, just be like, dude, what is this?
What is it?
Devo's one of our bartenders at Birch.
I love Devo. We
Give him a hard
always go
time.
back and
Oh,
forth.
yeah.
He's a good dude.
So when you were in college, what did you start in college for? Was it for culinary? And because you went to Miami, right?
Yeah, I played golf actually.
That's sick.
Yeah, I was in golf management. I was looking around. I was initially going to go play in Carolina, but then the only place that I saw like a future, because I was initially going to like go full out. If I didn't continue to play at some point for money, I wanted to be in the industry. So they have an amazing golf management program at Johnson and Wales. It's like one of the most renowned ones in the country.
Oh, that's
so
crazy.
weirdly enough, not culinary, but still Johnson and Wales. Went down there, played golf like 6 days a week, and I just herniated a disc and couldn't
Really?
swing a club for a couple of years, and I'd do physical therapy. And so to me, it was like if I wasn't down there, I wasn't just going to go to school if I couldn't play and be that far away from my family. So that was that. I was actually then shot back up to Providence to go to Johnson and Wales in Providence, hopped right back in the kitchen scene, and found out pretty quickly once golf was out of the picture and I was cooking a lot in restaurants and learning a lot in just being in the trade, that college really wasn't necessary for me at the time. And so I just moved back up to New Hampshire, moved in with mom, and got started in Portsmouth, which is one of the, like pretty much the food capital of our state, and just started working in restaurants there and
That's awesome, man.
putting in the hours.
What made you choose, with culinary, there's so many routes.
A lot, yeah.
You know, you don't always have to be a high-end chef. You can just be, there's just different levels. Like,
There's even, I mean, you can be a creative director for a food company. I mean, you can work for Dolan Bailey or Cisco or any of these big companies, and they just have like chefs who experiment and mess with product all day.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? It's a lot of different opportunity. But
what made you want to do high-end food?
I think because even in high-end food, if you can describe it that way.
Yeah, what's the correct term? To me, it's like top scale food. Like it's
I don't
it's perfectly
necessarily
flavored
consider-
and built out.
yeah.
Like
See, Mo, there's a misconception a lot, because I agree with what you say in terms of like naming the genre, because a lot of it would be considered high end, but there's still a huge difference of like I've been to, like when I go to New York, I've been to like 2 Michelin star restaurants, and then I've been to a 1 Michelin star that I found did a much better job than the 2. And it's just attention to detail in something like food is like, you can't match it. You either pay attention or you're not paying attention, because something as simple as just too much vinegar, not enough vinegar, too much salt, not enough salt is something that can throw everything off. So I think for me, wanting to do that food is because I've always been naturally competitive and played sports, golf, football, everything. And it's just same deal. Attention to detail. You work your ass off. The results show where they don't. And
So
I think
it's-
with food, it's the same way.
That's crazy. So it's precision cooking.
Yeah, that's how I like to
Yeah,
look
I
at it.
certainly
It's
wouldn't
precision
consider the
cooking.
Birch fine dining.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah,
not.
it's
'cause
definitely not. It's-
I also hate that too. Like why would you want to go into an environment that immediately feels uncomfortable when you're trying to relax?
Or pretentious.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we really wanted to avoid. It's a very casual setting.
Wear a
Yeah,
t-shirt.
that's my
do whatever
favorite thing
want.
is you can go in and it is very relaxed. You don't feel like some of the other restaurants in Manchester that try to serve a similar style food, where you go in and it feels kind of stuffy. You go in, it's relaxed, and the food's literally. I've tried things at Birch I would never eat.
Yeah, we
I'm just
don't-
gonna tell you the
That's
truth. I
my
would never
plan.
eat
That's
it
what I
anywhere
like
else.
to do.
We don't
too.
try to justify a higher check average by just like trying to pump out the environment. Like,
Right.
there's no pomp and circumstance when it comes to going there.
It's quality.
your friendly neighborhood cocktail lounge and nice restaurant. Like,
Yeah, and the quality's literally unreal. Like I've eaten things there that I've had other places that I've hated, and only because you cooked it, I was like, it's all right. Nick won't.
Yeah, well, trust goes a long way.
And trust would go further, so I'll try something. Then I'll
That's-
come back and I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but Nick's cooking it, and it would just go crazy, and it's never bad. Ever.
I always try to do something, try to use product that people aren't familiar with, because honestly, like especially when it comes to, not like it's all about showcasing skill, but just even
Right.
for personal interest, and anyone who's been in the restaurant industry for a small amount of time can take a thermometer and cook a filet mignon perfectly. Cool. But when you start working with things like beef cheek and tongue and offcuts, like it takes knowledge. You have to read,
Yeah.
you have to research, and then you have to experiment almost and find the best way to come up with a good product with it. So I like to do things like that, and then have people be like, have that uneasy tension where they're like, I don't know if I'm
I
gonna
don't
order
know if
that,
I'm gonna
man.
like that.
Yeah,
They're like, "I'll
that's
try
me.
it.
That's happened to me.
I'll put it in
multiple
front of
times.
myself and have a bite, and then end up coming back and
Yeah, I forget what the first thing was. It was I don't even remember. I think it was some sort of
Well, we have beef tongue
Beef.
tacos on the menu right
yeah.
now.
maybe it was that, and I was
And
just
they
like,
sell
I don't know,
well.
man. It was unreal.
Yeah.
Octopus
They-
is huge,
Yeah,
right?
octopus nuggets are one of our most popular dishes.
Yep, octopus.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just full on legs. So
Just legs.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that's one.
tons of-
Do you cut into it like
It's like-
steak?
No,
like
you don't
it's
even
like
need
a
to.
leg.
It's like a fork.
Yeah, it's so tender.
It's
Really?
really tender,
Unbelievable,
yeah. Which is the misconception of most people. I think they order it and they probably had it elsewhere, and they're like, I know what I'm going to expect. It's going to be like, they almost accept the fact that it's going to be chewy.
right.
And then,
It's really
you cook
easy
it
to-
properly.
Yeah.
It's not chewy.
There's almost like, there's a really small window, because with the way we do it, we slow cook it, but there's a 30-minute window where if it goes too far past it,
Yeah.
it turns to mush, and then there's no texture, which food
Right.
without texture is awful. And then if it's behind that time frame, you bite into it and it's like hubba
Rubbery.
bubba.
Yeah.
You're working on it for a minute.
So you guys really do take food and drinks to the next level. I mean, honestly, like that's not when we went there for the first time, it just changed kind of everything. It's just, there's nothing like it here anyway in Manchester.
That was
Where'd you get, you guys met at the Foundry, which is also a
Correct.
nice restaurant.
yeah.
How long did you guys work there together? And then when were you guys like, you have what I need,
We
and
worked
vice
Sundays
versa?
together.
Well, yeah, we worked Sundays together, which was great because none of the upper management was there, and so on Sundays he
Yeah.
was in charge of the kitchen and I was in
Sick.
charge of the bar. So we would start coming up with specials like pairings. So like I would make a drink at the bar that's not normally on the menu, and he would make a dish, and we'd try to cross utilize ingredients.
Oh, cool.
And then on
That's cool.
Tuesday, when everyone else showed up, they'd throw it away.
Really?
It'd be
Yeah,
like-
we don't do that here.
We got like the biggest one I remember was it was fall,
Yeah,
early
verbena.
or late fall. Yeah, it was like lemon verbena and like really nice fresh cranberries. So we both took our portion of the ingredients and then just met in the middle, and we did that for a few weeks. And we took a trip. I did a dinner in New York City. It was like an 11-course tasting, so each were only responsible for one.
Wow.
And me and Joel, after our shift on a Sunday, left for New York City at like 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, man.
Got down there at like 2
Record
a.m.
time.
Yeah,
Record time
3
we got
hours.
there, too.
Just jetted down. 'cause
And your
there's-
mom's Saturn.
Yeah, and
no
my mom's
heat
old
is in the middle of
Saturn.
November.
Didn't have working heat, freezing our ass off the whole drive down. That was the beginning days.
How'd you get invited to that? What got you there? To this?
One of my friends from Johnson and Wales in Providence, his family, he went to culinary school, but his family owned a restaurant in Manhattan already,
Wow.
and he was just going to kind of take over the family business once he
Right.
finished school. Really talented chef, Danny. I can't pronounce his last name still.
Marakovic.
Yeah, something close.
There you go.
It's been so
Yeah.
all the years still can never pronounce it. So we went down for that, and we just had a blast with food and everything for 3 days, and then came back, and it must have been like 4 or 5 months. He left the foundry for a little bit, and then we just kind of stayed connected. And
So 4 or
Yeah,
5
at
months
that
after
point,
that,
I
you really
basically-
started getting serious
At that
about
point,
it.
I basically told him I had started working with Kim on the investment side at that
Yep.
point, and I ended up actually going to work at the restaurant where Birch is now,
Yeah.
in its previous iteration.
Something about a
And
spoon.
just yeah.
oh, and then he
Function.
texted me.
Function.
He
And I
texted
was
me
Sorry,
one
I just
day.
remember the fork and
Yeah,
spoon
I
out
was
front.
like,
I don't.
I just saw the writing on the wall. It just seemed like there was, they did a lot of things right, but there are a lot of things that didn't seem like were being done in their best capacity. And I had a feeling that the place might close, so I reached out to Nick and I said, "It's a waiting game now. Just get your menu ready."
Nice.
and then we.
And then
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
then
then
like
the-
8 weeks
within-
later, the sign went up on the door, and we went in with an offer on the business. So
That's fantastic.
yeah, it was.
So did
It
you?
was a perfect spot too. I mean, the location for Birch to do it in this city. It couldn't have happened at a better.
No, that
location,
location
I
is
think.
amazing. Did you guys have a vision of the way you wanted that restaurant to look? Because that restaurant has a very cool, very specific look.
New Hampshire, I think, was just
Yeah.
the general basis of it. We wanted to feel really, homey to us and things that accentuated New Hampshire. And I think, his uncle Kurt had this crazy.
yeah, my uncle's a very, very talented Finnish carpenter, and he helped us with a lot of the build out there. But
Nice.
we did it all ourselves. We built that place in 10 weeks. We signed the lease on June 14th and
Yeah.
opened the doors on September 9th.
Yeah,
That's
It
crazy.
was-
staining the
was
beams with
wild.
my dad,
Yeah.
and we did everything. Joel
16-hour
ripped up
days.
the toilets and put new toilets in. It
Yeah.
was fun. It was
That's
a good
awesome.
time.
Yeah, but
Deep clean the shit out of the kitchen with my mom.
Yeah. So what of the kitchen state? Did you replace anything, or did you keep all the original?
We have a new
Other
10
than clean
burner.
it.
We have a new
Yeah.
saute range, but we still pretty much.
That's
We-
awesome.
I mean, that
kept
was our
most of
first
what
baby,
was
which
there.
is like, it was like what's the most minimal cost you can start this thing with?
right.
I replaced the ice machines.
Yeah.
There was this terrible flake ice machine out back there, and I sold it to one of our neighboring bars across the street that didn't really care much for their ice program. And I spent about 10 grand on ice machines, one being a cold draft machine that makes those perfect 1.25 inch cubes.
Oh,
Perfect cubes.
really?
And then one that makes like the Sonic ice, like the Pebble ice.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, dude, because I mean, like, I never thought of it, but it's like such a huge part of the program. Even, what is it? Death & Co., their book has like an entire chapter about
Yeah,
ice.
Death & Co. has a chapter on ice. Dead Rabbit, their book, definitely has the best in-depth
Really?
breakdown
Yeah,
of
it's like a
the
thing, the
importance
ice
of different
program.
sizes of ice in cocktails. Well, it's all about chilling versus dilution. Sometimes you want more
Right.
than others. So
No, and I love Scotch on the rocks.
Right.
When you go to a random bar, I would just use it that way, and they just put regular ice in it. It about ruins the Scotch
Just
within
about.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it completely dilutes it, and that's not the point. The point is when you put a block of ice in, it releases the water. Actually helps release different tastes and aromas, but you
Well,
also don't want to water down completely.
it's a function of
Just
surface area to volume.
Yeah.
And what you want is more volume because it stays colder longer with less surface area. So the larger the ice gets, that ratio actually it becomes more beneficial to chilling versus diluting. So that's why we use larger pieces of ice.
There's
It's
even
awesome.
a drink on the
Yeah.
menu right now because I was out there towards the end of the night when the kitchen started to slow down after the big rush, and there's a cocktail that Devo is actually putting salt on the top of the cube, making sure not to get any in the actual drink, but so as the ice diluted, you get like the salinity kind of
Wow.
made its way through the cocktail
that
as you
a-
were sipping it.
Was it a little Giuseppe?
I think so.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
See, that's amazing, and that's the thing is so you're taking
Attention to detail.
attention to detail, and I think that's a better way of saying it than high end,
well,
to be honest, because
Yeah.
you're using but the other part of it too is when you go to some restaurants. I mean, I know that I've heard like folklore of like how you go out early in the morning and like go to different places to get your food.
Yeah, we
like you're
bounce
not
around.
just having it get delivered all the time.
No,
It's-
sometimes, yeah, especially with the I've had to take drive out to Newfields to get chicken if we go through it too quick, and
Yeah.
so it's
you guys are serious. I mean, it's good food. You're not just ordering like the random Sodexo food. I mean, I'm sure you still get Sodexo
no. We
deliveries,
work
but
with specialty. We
Yeah.
buy off specialty companies and then local places, and it's an unpopular opinion, and there's sometimes where, unfortunately, and I hate to say it, but super local isn't always better. because there are
Right.
sustainable farms that are maybe in mass, but I mean,
It's all about
it's a
the meat
competition,
quality.
you know. It's
Yeah.
like that's what I mean, when it comes down to most things, that's what it is. And sometimes there's a better product 25 miles away than 10. So we try to stay as local as possible. But if I feel like the pork belly, you know, the fat ratio and fat cap on a pork belly from 30 miles away is better than 10, then
It's what it is.
yeah.
But what's cool about that is how serious you take it. And that's sort of why sometimes when I talk to people about it, I would use that word like high end is it's not just your attention to detail, it's the quality of the food and the drinks that you make. But really what it is, it's just precision cooking. I mean, just being so precise. And that precision has to do with the quality. Because if you were being that precise with lesser quality foods, it would come out good, but it wouldn't be what it is.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you
It's
can be
just
precise with
unbelievable.
the wrong ingredient too and get the wrong result.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's basically what it really comes down to on his end and mine is just an understanding of basic theory and technique.
And
amazing.
the most basic thing I ever heard in terms of, and a pretty general theory with most chefs that work with high grade food is, it's hard. You can't have a good end product with a shitty start product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, I mean, it's hard to take a. I mean, you can make banana bread with rotten bananas, but other than that, there's not a whole lot of circumstances that allow you to take something not great and turn it into something wonderful.
Something great.
And I'm not talking cuts. Like I said, I love
Right.
beef tongue. I'm not saying like, you know what I mean? Not like beef tongue's a lesser product, but I'm just talking if you go get subpar produce, you're not going to be able to produce something too great from it.
Yeah, we drive to Andover every week just to get the right mint
Yeah.
for our garnish on our
Really?
cakes. Yeah.
Love that.
It's great.
See, that's the seriousness that you take I mean, you take it so seriously that it's that important to you to give that customer experience because that's what gets
Yeah, we'll
people
drive
so
30
excited.
miles out of our way to spend $12 on like
Very
10 pounds of
specific.
mint,
Yeah. But it's serious.
Yeah, it is.
It affects your day-to-day business.
There's also there's an aspect to it too, though, where it's like, as much as it's a creative process for us, and that's what really drives everything I feel like at Birch, it's also understanding the market and understanding that not everyone, and not saying the customer base is ignorant because they're not, but it's
Right.
just different when you're in the industry and outside of it as a customer with no former experience being in it. So a lot of menu development on the kitchen side is, there's certain things like I'll write almost like 30 to 40 menu items and ideas
Yep.
and then narrow it down to 18, 20 for the actual menu. And a lot of it is going all out, doing what I want to do, and then looking at it and being like, realistically, what are people going to look at and want to buy?
And want to
And I'm
take
not
home.
saying not all of it would be great if executed properly, but it's like there's certain things that you got to kind of like tail back and be like, all right, we're still in New Hampshire,
Right.
we're
Yeah.
still
Our
in
people.
Manchester, so we got to keep it
It's-
obtainable for them.
You can be as creative as you want, but you still have to understand consumer behavior. if
Right.
you're
You
gonna
still have to
survive.
understand your market and
Yeah.
understand, what you guys have. I mean, you guys grew though quickly. I mean, from like what it seemed like from outside, like from day one, it was just like a firestorm. Every time I'm in there, every time I pass the restaurant, it's busy. I mean, it's busy.
Yeah, we just about doubled our sales from year one, from the first 12 months to the second 12 months. But I mean,
That's
when
awesome.
we started with a very limited budget, so all of our marketing was all just like done in house, very organic, like very guerrilla style type marketing. So the majority of our repeat business, we rely on them for their word of mouth, telling their friends about it. Like that's how it started. Now we're able to afford a little bit more,
Right.
But it all started word of mouth and like very
Organically.
hands in the dirt,
The
boots on the
initial-
ground style.
Concept was so simple because we just really were like, we knew what size we wanted in
Right.
terms of seating, and what we thought we could consistently fill, and
Right.
and then from there, mainly we were just like, if we make an outstanding product, people are gonna come.
Well, that's the other thing that I like is like there isn't. Sometimes you go to restaurants like very direct. Like there's one like we do chicken really really well or whatever it is. I like
Sure.
going and knowing that kind of your thing is just coming up with really cool things. That's kind of the most fun. And maybe I don't go enough, but how often do you change the menu? Because it seems like
Max, we go on like
couple
a 6-week rotation.
Yeah,
so
so
like it's
that's
usually
a
I try
lot.
to do
That is a
4,
lot.
but sometimes if we have like we might have events or certain thing pop up
Yep.
that kind of like restrict my time with writing. So I'll do 6 weeks. Like if I have a month that's busy with doing events and other stuff.
Yeah.
So I try to keep it to 6 weeks max because even as like that's another thing with the staff. It's like I've been at restaurants that the menu never changed, and you go into
Right.
work every day and it's just so.
Repetitive.
Yeah, it's awful, dude. So I mean, even I write the menus, and 2 weeks in, I'm bored of them. I'm like, all right.
well, I'm
Is
telling
the
you, like
month
I go
over
to
yet?
some nice restaurants and the food's great. Don't get me wrong, but then when you go and especially when the menu's not huge,
Yeah,
because it's probably not as good if it's a big menu. So, you go and it's a nice
That's
menu.
my opinion.
I agree. And it's just like, okay, cool, I had that last time.
Right.
You still have the same 8 things. So when I go, it's sweet to go on and be like, all right, what did Nick come up with? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
What cool drink did they just... Because you guys always have something new. There's always something to try.
It's a bit of a double-edged sword because, like you said, some places get famous because they do one thing really well, and that drives a lot of sales, and we're constantly rotating. So we never really have anything in the marketplace long enough to get viral, to go viral like that, but it's...
But I think that's your story. That's your thing.
But that is what makes us, that is what, helped us grow so quickly, is because no one else around us really does change as frequently as we do and have... evolution built into their DNA as strongly as we do.
There's even certain things, and I've seen during bar prep it happens as well, but even within a set menu of like that 4 to 6 weeks, it's not like we develop... It's fun 72 hours because you want everything fresh. So when we do a menu flip, it's like a 72-hour all-out prep fest and development of doing this, and it's fun, tiring, takes a lot of coffee, a little bit of wine at the end, but inevitably it gets done. And after all that work, we have recipes, right, that we have developed, we've tested on the previous menu as specials. But it's not like, and this is another thing that I think restricts a lot of restaurants and chefs, is you reach a point where you make the recipe and then that's it, and you just forget it.
Right.
You never look at it again. You never think about how the process on how you did it. So throughout those 4 to 6 weeks, we also, if it's perfect, it's perfect, and I won't touch it. And if I really feel like it's as good as it's going to get, but if I feel like something isn't up to where I want it, not meaning it's not good, but if it's not great or perfect, we continually throughout those 6 weeks tweak certain sauces and things to make sure. It might be something as simple as we did a medium dice on a carrot, but the mouthfeel and going with the rest of the dish needs something more, like a little smaller. We'll change something as simple as that. So I think constant development is important. And
when's
so
your cookbook coming out? Because you got to have a cookbook, drink book. Because if you're going to change the menu this often, right? You
should see that.
You got to save these.
Oh, they're all, but you should. It's actually kind of funny. They're in it's real old school. It's not technical. It's all the recipes are written in like a little notebook.
You're like handwritten in a moleskin notebook right now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then the tweaks are like chicken scratch out a 1, turn into a 2 tablespoon, or scratch out small dice, turn it to a medium dice, like little MED written above an SM that's crossed out.
That's awesome.
So it would take some refining in that department to get it all into a computer.
It would take a really talented person to transcribe that digitally.
That's what interns are for. Right? Just go get some interns and be like, gosh, you got to turn this into a Word document.
Oh, man.
Please.
Yeah. What? But we have hundreds in the backlog
every 6 weeks? I can't even imagine.
Yeah, both ends.
And it would be probably one of the cooler cookbooks. Every cookbook that comes out is the same old just take on, here's our version of chicken parm. No, this would be like, this is how you do beef tongue tacos. Like that. Yeah. I don't know how many cookbooks are really out there doing beef tongue tacos.
I think it's because it's always funny because a lot of places that do perfect certain things that aren't your norm kind of hold them, close to themselves, and they don't really want to.
Right.
It's not like
let people in.
Like when we have people come through the restaurant, I teach them all how we do the octopus, how we do the beef tongue. It's like if you want to go somewhere else and spread that knowledge, wonderful.
Right.
Good for the customers that get to eat it elsewhere. You know what I mean? It's kind of what department of life has ever been good by someone finding something out and then keeping all the knowledge to themselves?
Yeah. What is the burger company there? It's not Five Guys. It's the other one.
Well, there's a few.
But it's like Smash Burger.
Well, the big competition in Smash Burger right now is In-N-Out versus Shake Shack.
Shake Shack. So Shake Shack, the CEO, he gives away the recipe. All of it. There's no hidden anything. He goes, here it is. He has a cookbook. It's on his website. He goes, go ahead. I dare you.
Danny Meyer started that brand, and it's very, very successful. I have a lot of respect for him and his organization there.
And they're like, try it. I dare you.
Yeah.
Here. Every restaurant. And you can't do what they've done. Just like no one could take your recipe from Birch and make it as good because you've perfected it. And even if you can write down every aspect of what you did, they still know a way they can do it.
Yeah, and the only way you can realistically is I've gotten to the point with like my trusted employees who I've done it side by side with enough times to where they replicate every step just the way I initially came up with it.
Right.
Because those things don't change. Those are the things that don't change. Like how we do the beef tongue once the beef tongue got perfected, how we cook the octopus. Those things are steady, but
It's amazing. And so
Well, and that's just it. Like, so much of our continued success is reliant on our key players. Like, we
staff.
have a great team. Yeah, we wouldn't be where we were without them. Our staff is.
So you mentioned one of the main reasons that you left your jobs, respective jobs,
Right.
was you didn't feel like the places you worked were allowing you to be creative. That's huge, right? Because that's why you're in the industry.
It's a creative industry.
Right.
And as much as it
Inherently.
feels good when someone, like you said, when someone goes, "Oh, good job, that's awesome, man," it's like it's not fifth grade soccer where you need a pat on the head and you're just feeling fulfilled with what you're doing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
You want to create stuff,
Yeah.
and you feel a loyalty. I'm sure you felt a loyalty to the past restaurants you worked for, and
Of
so
course.
coming up with something was a big deal for you. You're going to them and saying like, "I love your business so much that I thought of something that I want to give to you," and they may or may not use it, but it's how they react to it, right? And they weren't
Right.
reacting in a way of that was like, well, let's at least try it, or let me hear you out, right?
Yeah.
They weren't even giving you
Oh,
that.
it's great
much.
to feel validated if they do.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
ego in the workplace, especially when people get titles, is like, it's hard to
Gets up
fight
there.
that sometimes, especially, and I hate to say it, not my chefs that I've worked for, not always that way. Matt Provencher was always great. The only reason I think I am where I am is because for the last 3 years I worked with him,
Yep.
I didn't even work on the menu prep. I would come in every day to work and he would literally be like, "Hey man, I got black bass in, some of this, some of that, do whatever the hell you want."
That's awesome.
So, and that got to a point where when you're hungry enough and you want to do what you want to do, though, after a while, that still wasn't enough. So that's
Right.
why you still, but I mean, he did everything in his capacity to help me, so it's no,
And do you guys feel like that's what keeps your staff happy? Is like you kind of pass that along. Like if they point something out, like for a drink, I'm sure the bartenders do, because every time we're in there, I don't order what I would normally order. I just ask them because they're just like, this is better than whatever you thought you were going to order.
yeah.
And they're always right.
Jeremy doesn't
Yeah.
hold back with his opinion on that one.
No,
Nope. Oh, no.
no,
He'll
it's
tell you.
fun.
He'll
He's fun
tell you,
that
yeah.
way. Yeah, because it's just like
He's been doing it for 20 years too. Like, so, you know,
He's
it
always
might
right.
sound like banter, but he's being serious.
Oh yeah, no, he's
It's
never
like
right.
giving
He's never
Brady-
been
He's
wrong.
right. Yeah.
It's like
he
when
is.
you give Brady the ball with 2 minutes left, you know? Just
Yeah.
trust him.
I know. Doesn't
Yeah.
that hurt being a Giants fan?
It's got
No, because not in the Super Bowl, he didn't pull it off.
Oh man.
We have more, man. This isn't a sports podcast. We can't.
No,
get
it's
into
not.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that'll turn into a whole
We just
deal.
have more. I don't know what to tell you.
But yeah, like one of the things we do is you know, our menus are not fully like developed by committee, but there is input from the staff members that we trust. And I mean, like, we'll audit recipes to like a certain extent, but I mean, if you come up with an idea and it's good,
Yeah.
great. I don't
try
want to
it.
have to come up with all the right ideas. If you have a good idea, even better.
Yeah.
I'd love to publish it.
Yeah, doesn't it make it a little? It's they're loyal, right?
Yeah.
So
And it's nice if you really are in it for the. I mean, especially you're in the hospitality. If you're in the hospitality industry, you obviously care about people,
Right.
Whether it's your employees or the outside world. No matter how much, if someone comes in and wants to order something stupid, you kind of curse them behind under your breath. But still,
Right.
That's what it's about. So if you don't appreciate watching people under you grow, you've always heard it too. Like if you were training someone and they don't end up being better than you,
right.
did you do that well? You didn't
Yeah,
do that
did you
well.
train them that
yeah,
well?
you
Right.
didn't do a good job.
Shoulders of giants, right?
One of the greatest things that I was told recently was I'm talking to one of the biggest jewelers that kind of exist in New England. He was at an event with me, and it was weird though he was there because it was from smaller jewelers. And I was just asking him about staffing, and he goes, "We have huge turnover." And I go, "Oh, is that an issue for you?" He goes, "Absolutely not." He goes, "I'm so good at training sales staff that I train them literally into higher paying positions. Like, and if I didn't, my company would not do as well."
Right.
He goes, "I'm okay with the turnover because I know how great I make people. I know how
Right.
great I make sales staff, that they're so
Yeah,
wanted."
that helps him manage his overhead, and then
Right.
they are, you know, basically paid internship into a better position.
Right. Yeah, no, he keeps them for a couple years, they kill
Yep.
it, and then they're off to whatever makes them also successful. And I think that that's cool because that's something that I always fear, which is people leaving. And actually, it's just better to train them and make them as the best that they can be.
I
And it
think-
makes you better too.
I think it
Definitely.
does too, for
Training,
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
The scary thing is if you have a really valued employee,
Right.
one, there's a couple limits as to one, you know, there's only so much you can ever pay someone and still, you know,
Right.
to a certain extent, which you wish, you know, you could give everyone $1 million, but it just unfortunately doesn't work that way. But it just, the scary part is, you know, eventually they're going to leave, but if you really value them and you know how talented they are, it just, you're like, will the next one be as good or have the same potential?
Right.
So it's not so much them leaving where you're like, I'm always happy for them when an employee finds their next step in their career.
Right.
It's the fear of like,
Oh, now what?
oh, is the next one gonna be able to fill the shoes?
So is it weird going from like the Birch on Elm, which I don't think I've said the name of the restaurant enough. So we've been talking about the Birch on Elm.
Right. Specifically. We have two.
And so is it weird going from that where you, like you were saying, there's only 3 guys out back or 4?
Yeah,
right?
usually 3 max in the kitchen at a time.
3 out back. So how does it go from that to Noodz, which is set up as a much more fast casual restaurant?
It's twice the employees, twice the operation.
Yeah. So what made you do it? Because it's the food, the aspect of the food being amazing, the quality being amazing, that stayed.
That's still there.
But it's just it's such a different
it's
setup.
produced differently.
Even though it's only across the street.
It is directly across the street. There's one sidewalk in between us.
The initial plan that when Joel brought up was the whole thing was to kind of bookend Birch. So we do lunch and late night at Noodz also.
Right.
So when we only go from 5 to 10 or 11 at Birch food-wise and 5 to 11 or midnight at the bar there, there's 2 other sides to that during the 24-hour day.
Yeah.
So Noodz kind of covers those, and it's also covers a completely different genre of the restaurant industry.
That fast casual is like, I think they said it was the fastest growing part of the food market.
And we just really wanted to like diversify our hospitality portfolio. I know how like cliche that sounds, but it's the reality of the situation.
I mean, it's
like
not cliche at all. It's serious.
Yeah, it is serious.
Business.
Yeah, we wanted to have a larger position on the 24-hour clock. So, I mean, Noodz does really well from 11 to 3, and then Birch will do really well from like 5 to 10 or 11 in the kitchen. And then on Friday and Saturday nights, Noodz will pick up again around 11 and be busy until 2 a.m.
It's amazing.
So it's just...
So why noodles other than the cool name? Because
starch-based food industries are great. Like margins are great.
Oh, okay.
And it's easy to mass produce them too. But everything else that's in that dish, you might say, oh, it's just a bowl of noodles, but it's not, because we're making broth for 24 hours. We're still doing the confit pork belly and the pulled brisket and the slow roasted chicken and all that stuff, and then the fresh produce. And so there's still a lot more steps outside of it just being noodles. It's a good base. It's a really good base.
I mean, it was even speaking of those Sunday nights. When I was at Foundry, took a lot of that time into mostly just because it's when you're making, as simple as ramen sounds, it's a really good base to build flavor, and it's just something you can just have fun with. Like when you're cooking, it's just something that's fun. Yep. Making noodles, making broth, adding what you want, finding different textures, different little things that add flavor. This is a good time, and we always had fun with it at Foundry when I would do specials, and then from the start of Birch to when Noodz started. I mean, I'd say probably 2 weekends a month we would run ramen specials there, just cranking out noodles. So, and with how fast it was going there, and then the quality of ramen we were doing at Birch and how much everyone loved it, and we decided like that might be the way to go for the fast casual. And it also allowed us, because we were doing it so much at Birch already, Birch essentially turned into a test kitchen for bao and ramen through the whole process of Noodz being built out. So the recipes, luckily,
were tested a little bit.
And like dumplings, rice bowls, bao buns, ramen bowls. That's such an enormous and still growing food subculture as well.
Bao buns are amazing.
They're fantastic.
They are unreal.
You can put anything in a steamed bun, and
it's good, right?
It's good. Yeah.
It's the closest thing to a sandwich we have. And like we said earlier, sandwiches are serious business.
They are serious business. You know what's important, and it's just like a fun little story about you guys, is so I went to Noodz, I don't know how soon after opening, pretty close. And I called Joel, and I was like, oh, I was just there the other night. It was really amazing. And this is just about like how serious you guys take your food. And Joel was like, oh, I'm so sad you went Friday, because on Monday we swapped out the way we make the noodle, like something about making the noodles thicker or slightly different. He's like, they're way better now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have noticed the difference.
I think it was like a 5 to 7 millimeter dye difference in the dye.
3. It was like, it was 2.2 to 1.7.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is not something your average entrepreneur would think. Would think about. That's something jewelers think about. We're talking millimeters making diamonds. That's serious food precision. Like I can promise that most noodle bars that open up wherever, whether it's Boston, New York, I don't think they're all considering down to the millimeter of the noodle.
Well, it makes a huge difference in texture.
We also,
Yeah, but I don't think
Cook
they know
time,
that.
texture, yeah.
we had a.
I think you take the time to understand that and research it and feel it out.
Because it's the big thing too is the market we're dealing with at Noodz is so much different than Birch. So we actually hit, like Birch never really had any. We never hit like a hiccup there really in terms of product and customer relations or anything. But Noodz in the beginning, I think it was just a misconception of understanding what ramen really was. People thought the noodles were just purely based off of how they looked. They were like, that's spaghetti.
Yeah, they didn't have the
And we were
they didn't have the crinkle in
really?
it like the
We, like,
Maruchan stuff, so
we're
they didn't
making
think they
them.
were ramen noodles. I'm like, no, this is a traditional
It's like-
alkali noodle
Yeah.
recipe.
Like, this
It
is the way
just
it's-
doesn't have the little wave. It doesn't have the little crinkle
Because
in it.
it's not packed into a
But that's a
package.
very specific piece of industrial machinery that gives those noodles that
Crinkle.
shape,
Really?
and we
Yeah.
don't have that.
But I don't think, and I think people caught on. I
Yeah.
think, and the nice thing is, on top of your noodles and you can never go wrong, at least for me, with a rice bowl.
Yeah.
I get your rice bowls every time.
I eat rice
It's the
bowls.
best bang for your buck
At
when it
home,
comes
too.
to like just
So good.
fried rice
With the
bowl,
brisket or
Yeah,
whatever,
with-
whatever's the
I do
slow
pulled
smoked
chicken or brisket,
Yeah,
and it's $12 and it's 2 meals.
it's
It is
unbelievable.
protein.
Yeah, I mean,
Veggies.
I love
Soy.
it. So what got you guys there? I mean, you guys have now started 2 successful restaurants. Were you ever afraid at any point? Did you ever feel like what's going to happen, or is it
Every day.
is your is your precision helping you? I mean, I'm sure there's always failures. I mean, there's always failures and successes. So,
Yeah.
what were a couple of the failures you had, and then, are some of the successes, like being on Phantom Gourmet, being on New Hampshire Chronicle? Like, what's kind of the drastic between the two?
Well, being so precise, it allows us to address problems when they arise, because we know exactly, like, when something goes wrong, there's a trail that leads up to that, and we can kind of work backwards from there.
That's pretty great.
and change things. That's what happens when you like compartmentalize and categorize things so like in such a detail oriented way that we do. It allows us to like solve problems relatively quickly. We can pivot relatively quickly.
That's fantastic.
But then when we do get recognition from institutions like Phantom Gourmet, it's just gratifying. It just makes it all worth it. It just makes all this, like, it just feels good, you know?
I lied earlier. We did have hiccups at Birch. So like I said with the noodles, the first thing obviously we had to address at Birch, because it's been taken care of. It's been such a long time since we've dealt with the issue. We do tapa style, so it comes out as it's prepared.
Right.
Mostly to ensure quality, because I don't care where you go. If food all comes to your table at the same time, I can almost guarantee you the plate or two of that has not been made that minute. It's
been
probably
up
had
on
to
a heat
sit
lamp.
for a minute or
Yeah.
two under a heat lamp, so other things could be plated and like. On a busy night at any restaurant I've ever worked in, it is nearly impossible for every cook on the line to be like, "All right, guys,
Right. Put all your plates up.
yeah,
Everybody.
that's not how it works."
At the end of chopped, they're just like, here you go. All the plates are done. Yeah.
Exactly. So to ensure the highest quality, any time that a food sits in a window, you're talking texture. There's just so many things that are degrading while it's sitting there. So the way we do it is, I want you. It's experiencing the food.
Yeah.
You're talking. You're having fun. You're all sharing it. So initially, to get some people on that wagon wasn't the easiest thing. We had to reformat the menu a bunch. Like the first, I think, maybe 8 to 10 menus were all different formats.
Really?
Just like visually.
Yeah, visually.
I was still doing some research into menu
Yeah.
design, and it's something I had never done before. So we went from like just using a 3-column Word document
Yep.
to the way it looks now, and it's completely and drastically changed.
know, I
it's
think that's interesting.
Evolved heavily.
I don't think that people would think that you took time to design your menu. I honestly don't think that people would think that. So that's amazing. So it took 10 iterations to get what you felt like was a comfortable
Yeah, it took
read,
about
get
the
people to
first full
understand.
year to get my menu formatting down
And
into the
try
way that
to
I have it now.
Have
That's so
some
important. That's
wording
amazing.
that, like, in the top right, it says, like, food is brought out as prepared for you to enjoy at the highest quality. Just like little things that are like not, so that people kind of help grasp the idea. Even because the server obviously
Right.
explains it, but just so when they're reading the menu, sometimes when it's in your face, it's
But people don't understand that you need to place certain things in certain places on the menu in order to draw people's eyes to them.
yeah.
Right.
There's
right.
psychology behind it, behind menu
how
design
people
and how
read.
people read.
There's actually
And,
books written about it, which is funny.
There
I
are
didn't think
entire
there
books
was.
written about it, and it's
Entire books about
yeah.
just menu design.
Yeah, the
That's
psychology
amazing.
of menu design and how to play, like how and why you place certain items that you want like importance being placed on. in certain places.
Even
Really?
something as simple
Yeah.
as I know one of the ones that we learned was, which right now we're not doing, but in the beginning, just having the price written in words instead of the actual
Instead
numbers.
of numbers, yeah.
Really?
So if something was $9, it would be 9 spelled out.
And that
We did
helped?
that for a while. It just it keeps people.
Yes, it what it does is it avoids that like that $8.99 mentality.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So you don't
it's-
have to do the $8.99. You can be like, no, this is $12.
Yeah,
This is
and
12.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. It just I guess it eases a lot of the anxieties of spending certain amounts, like certain dollar amounts on things.
Focusing more on the food
perceived
than the price,
value.
because the
Yeah.
price is completely based off of what the product costs. It's not like,
Right.
and that's the worst thing about restaurants, and it's, I mean, people when they come in, they don't understand that they're like, there's more behind the product than just the product. When
Right.
people are like, why does this cost this amount of money? It's like, well, for one, there's lights over you, right? So you can see the food. There's heat coming through the building. There's employees. There's this, there's that. It'd be like, I mean, do you go to, like, I have a Toyota Corolla. It's not like when I went to go buy my car, I assumed that the Toyota was $22,000. I
Right.
don't think they made it for $22,000,
Right.
obviously. So it's like, I think people just have a hard time comprehending, like, certain additional cost to the business. It's like, it's still a product. People look at it as just food, like, this is just Brussels sprouts. It's like, well, no,
Well,
not
right.
at all.
Well, that's a
It-
great
it's-
example
it's-
because it's such a
is.
tedious project to
Yeah.
quarter the Brussels sprouts we do and the way we do, and to stop it just before the root so that when we do fry it, it blooms open. Like that time is
Yeah.
costs more than the actual product itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the raw product.
And that's why people who do come back because they're not paying attention as much to the price. Not that price isn't important, but that they're paying attention to the fact that they're willing to pay for expert precision. I mean, your food's unbelievable. Those Brussels sprouts are unreal.
They're crazy, right?
Yeah, they're
And even
literally crazy.
to help
Yeah.
people out. I mean, we even when I'm pricing things out, it's like, you know, you shoot for a certain percentage, and there's always like, so if I have something that I've worked into a percentage that I like, and that general average is something, but if something, like say we're on the cusp of 20 to 19, if it's going to go up 1% food cost, but we're still in the right realm of what we need, then I'll make it 19 instead of 20 to help ease the mind of people a little, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because we're still at a point where if you go to New York City, people are spending $600 for a 10-course dinner,
Which is crazy.
which they don't
man.
care about.
Yeah.
But we're in a position here where that's something you're like, that could be make or break for someone to order the short rib.
Right, a dollar. Right, a
A
dollar
dollar.
too.
Yeah, that
So-
like that perceived 19 versus $20.
Isn't it amazing?
But
Yeah,
it is great. There's very few things on our menu over $20.
Yeah,
Very,
we try to
very few.
minimalize it
It's
in that sense.
to keep it under each.
Yeah, I mean,
I
you
mean,
just
it's-
gotta understand
you
the
have to do it.
area.
And,
you know,
we portion accordingly, so it's not like, yeah.
yeah,
you're
I mean, the
still getting a
portions
good
make
amount of
sense. So,
food.
and especially because where you're coming from, where like if you go down the street and get short rib or whatever somewhere, you're probably gonna get like maybe a 6 to 8 ounce portion,
Right.
right? And it's probably $28 to $32. Ours is 19, but obviously it's like
A little
three and a
smaller.
half.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
the menu's structured in a way where we want to encourage people to order more than one thing. So
Right.
it's not like a lot of traditional restaurants where you get an appetizer and then you get an entree, and you're halfway through the entree and you're like, I got to take this home, and
Yeah.
you like, you've eaten so much food at that point.
Right.
Like, we try to encourage people to get multiple things, and the menu's built that way because like we want you to experience different flavors, different textures, different products. Like because we
There's-
change the menu so frequently, you should be able
Right.
to order 3 or 4 things each time you're there between a couple people and
And have fun.
experience
Mostly,
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
with like honestly, the reason there's 2 reasons behind the structure of the food coming out. Is one is because with the kitchen space to the amount of seats we're feeding, like on a busy night, like say like last night, it was just me and a line cook on the line.
Yep.
If there's Tuesday nights where we get full, and if with a patio, never mind, we'll say without a patio,
Yeah.
that's still, if you look at it, that's like 42 people versus 2. If 42 people
Wow.
are ordering food, 2 people are cooking it. You know what I mean? So that the way we put the food out, the way we do, helps with ease that tension, make sure people are getting their food. And then the other one on the other side of that is when I read a lot of cookbooks, and one of the greatest things I ever read while we were in the process of doing this was the French Laundry cookbook, Thomas Keller, and he has like a 2-page just kind of just little written explanation of the law of diminishing returns when you're talking about food. So when you have a small plate of food, say it's 5 to 10 bites, you're in that like that zone of like, wow, this is amazing. Love every bite of it. And when you go, say you go to like an old school Italian restaurant, right? And you have like a pound of chicken fettuccine, let's say, you might have those first 10 bites and you're in heaven. And then every bite after that is like,
becomes a chore.
yeah, you're like, all right, this is kind of, I'm over it. I'm not stimulated anymore. I'm not engaged with the food as much as I was when it arrived at the table. Right. So the way we put the food out, you're intrigued throughout your plates arriving, and there's only enough of it there to where you enjoy the entire thing and you don't get sick of it by the time the plate's empty.
And I think that's true. Every time we're there, we're kind of, you finish something and you're like, all right, so what am I going to try?
Yeah, what else do I want to try?
Right. And I think that's fun. I think that's what made you guys so successful. Other than the fact that you guys are both found great partners in each other. Like, you both found the sides of the business that you're really good at. And you both encourage each other on either side without really getting in each other's way. I'm sure there's still things that...
Yeah, I mean, I don't pretend to know about the front of the house because I've never worked in it.
Right.
So, like, even... Like, if Joel's across the street, if Jeremy or Caitlin, our general manager, they're both amazing. If there's something front of the house to be resolved, I'm not going to step in and be like, hey. You know what I mean? Because that's not my domain. Why would I step in and pretend to know about something I don't know?
Exactly.
They were hired in their positions because they understand the position.
Right. No, and I think it's
So
good.
There's a lot of delegation, and that's granted, that's contributed to our success as well. We have a lot of very, very talented people working for us that care very much about what they do. That certainly helps.
When did you feel successful? When did it...
I still don't.
Well, right. I mean, that's every entrepreneur.
It's only been 3 years.
They asked the CEO of Chipotle the other day if he felt successful, and he said no, because the whole point in starting Chipotle was so he could open a 5-star Michelin restaurant, which he never did. So he still feels like a failure.
Yeah.
So I mean, you never do. But was it when you were thinking about opening Noodz and you're like, we've done a good enough job here at Birch that we can feel that we have not only just the time but the right people in place so that we can give some energy to Noodz and start that new restaurant and that new part of our life.
That happened. Noodz happened when it did a lot because it was just we got very fortunate with the opportunity with the space that we had. So very similar to how like Birch came to be. But they happened in relatively quick succession. I mean, we started Noodz when Birch was only about 1.5 years old, like 2 years old.
I know. What made you do that? I mean, other than wanting that extra time, I mean, that must have been did you have a conversation?
It was honestly before Birch. Like we
talked about ramen bar first.
Yeah, there was like a talk of like chit chat about that previous to Birch, but I mean, obviously the capital needed to do something like Noodz is a lot different than Birch to get started.
Yeah, so Birch was like
investment.
Birch
yeah. See, to me as a novice, I would have thought it was the reverse.
It's twice the space.
Well, that's true.
Twice the employees. The kitchen's doing about twice the food too.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable. So, but did you guys have a conversation? Did you sit down and say, "All right, so we've made it here"? Do you see that? Because it was empty, I think, for a little while.
Yeah, it was a pastry shop.
That's what it was.
It was empty for a while.
They moved down to Hanover Street in Boston. So they're in the North End now.
I think the
That's amazing.
vacancy of the space is what initiated the conversation. I think the space was empty for so long. Joel brought up the idea after it was sitting there for like 3 months of being empty and was like,
it was something we should pursue.
Right.
Brought it back up and
It's amazing. It's amazing, guys. You guys have created 2 amazing places.
And I think the branding at Noodz sort of helped its initial success as well.
The branding. You've created an Instagram. You've created an experience at Noodz. The way you've created an experience at Birch,
the whole idea was to encourage people, like to have the dishes presented in such a way and in such a format, and have the space itself. I mean, there's brick texture, hardwood. There's metal. It's like that slate countertop. There's a lot of backdrops and a lot of textures that encourage people to pull out their phone and take a picture and Instagram it. Like we sort of crowdsourced our initial marketing program.
I mean, it was genius. You've created an Instagrammable moment for people, and I see it all the time.
The bright pink neon doesn't hurt either.
It does
you
not.
also speak about
it does stick out.
You talked about before we got on how you were talking about Milk Bar.
Yeah.
And they essentially have, I mean, that's what they've done.
Yeah.
You have people all over the country ordering cake, like $42
cake.
Like $42 cake. And they don't even frost the outside because it's like a naked
and I mean,
texture.
it is amazing.
Really? It's part of their thing is it's a naked cake?
Yeah. It's a solid product, but
man,
I mean,
brilliant.
There you go. I know
That's
they
a
nailed it.
margin.
It is a margin, yeah.
That's a killer
Coincidentally,
margin.
that's a
Yeah.
neon sign. But that's it. And then you see people get their pack. I mean, I see it all over Instagram. People are like, "It was my sister's birthday. Got a milk bar cake." It's like
Yeah.
they're like, this is the height of it all.
And
for
even
a
like the
birthday.
tin
You got this
packages
cake.
in which the tin packages they put their like cookie samplers together in.
Really?
Oh yeah,
I
Joel, you got them ordered to the
I
restaurant.
got them ordered to the
sample one
restaurant. I
time.
just wanted to see I just wanted to see it. I
Yeah.
just wanted to see how it would come, how it was packaged in.
And the
it's
cookies are
brilliant.
awesome.
It's brilliant. The box is filled with like pink confetti, and
Yeah, they make it fun, right?
They make
it's
it
just
fun.
all part of the brand.
They make
Yeah.
it fun. And I saw an Instagram story that they had posted around the holiday time of they had just 8 people on a table just packaging cookie samplers together.
That's crazy.
24 count sample boxes. It was just it was like an industrial size just assembly line.
Unbelievable.
That's how much they're selling, and they sell online.
Wow.
I mean, you think about other things
They have
too.
an
Is
e-commerce store.
not in the restaurant industry, but like when you go down to Newbury Street in Boston.
Right.
And have you ever been to Johnny Cupcakes?
Yeah.
It's like a simple T-shirt company, but why is it so big and huge? It's just I think it's you walk in there and they have the whole thing is based around the concept of a cupcake shop. They're
Right.
like pulling shirts out of the oven like they were baked cupcakes, and they put them in little Dunkin' Donuts to go Munchkin boxes and like that. I mean, would those T-shirts be as successful without that?
No.
I don't think they would be even
built a
close.
brand.
Yeah, and they took retail and they made it interactive.
Right.
Which I think is what, I think a lot of retail companies should consider that as a huge success story. I mean, I personally think it's one of the reasons why Toys R Us had such a hard time, because it was still just retail. They didn't do anything to make the experience above and beyond or different. They didn't differentiate themselves enough from the e-commerce giants that put them out of business.
All they had to do was create a sense of when you went in of education. Like when you went in there was no one to help you. There was no one, like when you go to Walmart, you're not looking for someone to help you find shampoo unless you're literally just wondering where it is.
Yeah.
But you don't need help picking out shampoo.
No, you
Right.
can find someone to track it down for you
Right.
if you
And
really need it.
And
But-
if you need that information, you go to wherever that place my girlfriend goes to in the mall, and they help you pick out specific shampoo to whatever her hair
Oh, yeah,
dye
my
is
girlfriend
that
does that
she
too.
Yeah,
uses.
so they're educated sales associates. Yeah.
Right. If Toys R Us has educated their sales associates and trained them to help people pick out toys and show them what the toys kind of do and like had a little bit more fun with it, you could have never competed with online because online is just the toy.
Yeah.
And I
And
mean,
And online you even get reviews, which can help form your opinion, where you
Right.
don't even get that brick and mortar.
It's
You
just so weird because I mean I remember vividly one of those because obviously it was one of the most exciting moments when you're 5 to whatever years
Oh,
old
going to
when you
Toys
go
R
to
Us?
Toys R Us.
Yeah.
So it's like embedded in your head.
Yeah.
And dude, that place was packed. I mean, when I
Always.
was a
When I
child,
was a
that
kid.
place was full. There would be a line when you're checking out. I'd be trying to look at video games and Nintendo 64 cartridges, and there'd be 20 kids around me doing the same thing. And it's just funny how fast that can just.
Yeah, I remember being a
When the- when
teenager,
the
and Toys R Us
changes up.
Holiday Help was one of the best part-time jobs you could get.
oh
Because
yeah.
they were so busy.
No, when I think one of the things that will always keep us successful in the jewelry industry, because there is an online model to even our business, but in the industry as a whole, is my whole business is based on education.
Yeah,
That's it,
right.
man.
Also,
That's
where
what we had to struggle with, too.
I know if I ever were to buy a piece of jewelry in the times I have, it's a hands-on experience. I'm not going to go online and order jewelry without speaking to someone or seeing
Right.
it, touching it, feeling it in person. So I feel like that's a good advantage for you as well. Is like how many people
think it's
blindly
good.
buy jewelry online?
It's about 8%, and the problem is you don't know what you're getting, even though you think you do because you're reading descriptions and there's a couple reviews. But like, if you go to a store and you touch a piece of jewelry and generally you get something online, you're gonna feel a weight. I mean, it's just, and we won't get into that because this is about you
Well,
and how
you
successful
and I
you
had
guys
this
are.
conversation
But-
just a couple weeks ago when I bought this watch from you, and
Right.
it was like I was tried on a couple from a couple different brands, and I was just like, some of it was just too bulky because like I said, I work with my hands a lot, and it has to be lightweight, and I may have made a different decision if I had just looked at it online,
Right.
like based solely on just the visuals.
Well, I can tell you, for me, like, so my rep, who I buy that watch from,
Right.
I saw the picture of it and I told him no, of that watch.
Of this one?
Yeah, I said
Until it came in.
Yeah, the picture was awful. It just doesn't capture you can't capture sometimes the beauty of an item unless you physically have it, and I think that has to do a lot with food.
Yep.
I think they're great food photographers. The stuff that you guys produce, even when I take pictures of it to post it, like it doesn't look as good. You just can't capture the way that your food looks
That's the
just
I gotta
right
tell
out.
you,
And
man.
it's unbelievable.
Instagram has done a lot of things, obviously, for whether it's self-promotion or for business, anything really, but there's the amount of times where like, and this is it's kind of a weird motivational point, but there's been so many times where I go to restaurants and, you know, I go there sometimes based off Instagram or just general public hearsay. And there's so many times where you go there and it's just, you can tell you're like, man, they really put their heart into that picture on Instagram. They put everything they had into that dish. And then you go and you show up and you eat maybe even what you saw on there, and it just, one, doesn't look like it was played with the same effort.
Right.
And the attention to detail that you noticed and everything that seems so appealing about that picture isn't there. So that's one of the things that's always in the back of my mind is like, you need to be able to show up on a consistent basis with the product that you're selling. And so every time I plate a dish or I'm cooking it and tasting it, I'm like, people came here for a reason.
Yeah, but that turns people off. That's how you get someone in the door once, but that's how you like convince them to not come back a second time.
Right.
When we do our food photography and we do any of our product photography, it's the same thing you're going to get when you walk into the restaurant.
Well, that's my
there's
favorite
very little
part.
touch up.
But it's still, I'm telling you, I see the food and I'm like, I'm going to try that, and then it comes out and it looks better. That's my favorite part. And it makes me feel like I'm on like everybody wants to be on a cooking show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Every person wants to be a judge on a cooking show. And like, it's so fun to go to a restaurant and have the chef or the guy creating your drink at the bar be so serious about it that it comes out looking cool. And you're like, I almost don't want to, like, it looks so cool.
I almost don't want to eat this.
Yeah. I almost don't want to ruin this. Because you took time to just, I mean, it's such a thing that the average person would be like, it doesn't matter. It kind of does. It's just fun. It just makes you feel, the consumer feels awesome because you took the time to like make it really cool.
Yeah,
for
that'd
them.
be like saying, okay, cool, your watch tells time, but it looks like shit.
Right.
So it does its job, so that should be enough. It tells time.
There are plenty of watches that fit that description.
So, but you still want it to look good.
Yeah, you still want it to look good because it's just better that way.
Yeah.
I think you guys did it, man. I mean, I what's the future like? What now? I mean, it's been what?
I think it's honing these two for a little. I mean, because we're still so early. I mean, it feels like forever, but I mean, 3 years in restaurant time is usually people are hoping to break even by 5.
And you guys have.
Yeah,
we should probably
goal.
talk about that. We don't have to talk about numbers, but so you've broken even on both, or
Birch was break even right out of the gate.
That's fantastic.
We never.
But you did all the hard work.
We never
right?
reinvested any cash after our initial investment. Nothing.
That's great.
Yeah, it was relatively self-sustainable, like right out of the gate. But that was also because we were spending 80 hours a week at our new baby.
Right.
80 to
Minimal
100.
labor.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys stained all the wood. I mean, you put in the toilets. I mean, that's serious. That's no joke. But you saved all that money, right?
We saved a ton of money. No contractors whatsoever. Like like we said, we had some family come and help us. But outside of that, it was.
Which is cool, honestly.
It's amazing.
It's something like I know. Like that's one of the things. There's it's a nice to have. There's not many moments that come together like that where like you have memories in like your professional setting and then like your family setting. But it was kind of cool like to have our families come in like to spend 5 hours one day staining posts with my dad. You know what I mean? Like not many people get the opportunity to have those mesh and like have their close family and friends be like a direct connection to your dream.
Of a startup.
Yeah, it's the definition of a startup. Yeah.
So it's a cool memory too. On top of.
Did you feel a little bit more push to be successful after that, because like they all came in to help you, right? And you don't want to let them down because now you've involved them and their hard work and their time, right, and their effort.
And I think, I mean, I mean, I've met Joel's parents and obviously I know my parents, and they're just, I mean, we didn't catch a lot of support as many people might think when we decided to do this. Like whether it was
there were a lot of concerned phone calls. Are you sure?
Not our family though.
Not from family.
My parents were 100% into me doing it. I know his mom and his stepdad were. I mean, they were completely supportive from the beginning. But like coworkers from other restaurants and other people who were like, I don't know if that's such a great idea.
Yeah,
you guys are 24.
We caught a lot
it's
of
Manchester.
From some of our colleagues.
Yeah, is that creative nature going to work in Manchester? Is that good? It's like, well, someone's got to push the boundaries eventually.
Someone's going to try it, right?
No one's got to make chicken piccata what are we going to make chicken piccata for 100 years on the street and not do anything else?
It took a lot of like one-on-one like education of our customer base, like as they came in the door. Like, again, because of the style of food, and then the style of how this food is served at the top of style.
Yep.
And then trying to explain to them the bar program and no, we don't have Red Bull. Like, so it took...
Or Jack Daniels.
Yeah, we don't... Like, it was one
funny.
by one educating our customer base, like, over... It was very, very tedious. And we still do for the most part, but, like, man, they've caught on. Like the market's
people-
really starting to catch up in our area, especially with the demographic that's currently moving to Manchester. I think
Right.
a lot of people moving here right now are relieved to see a place like the Birch and like Noodz, because it reminds them of some of the larger population areas in which they're moving here from in order to work for some of these huge tech companies down in the mill yard and the reestablished mill yard.
I think it's true. I think
culture.
it's one of the fun things about going to Boston and Houston and New York and stuff is you get to go out and it's just like whatever you want is there.
Yeah.
It's like if you want tapas, you go get tapas. If you want a noodle bar, you got a noodle bar. If you want poke bowls, you got them. And that's the cool thing that you guys have brought at least two of those things
Yeah.
to Manchester.
Well, this area was dominated by Italian, Greek, and French cuisine for
Just
ever.
traditional food.
Yeah.
Very
just
traditional.
traditional.
Super
Just
traditional.
always traditional. And even the more upscale places were just doing their variations
Yeah.
of very traditional
yeah.
food. So they weren't even doing what you're doing, going outside the box, doing something cool.
But I mean, it's just like any other market. You need to diversify yourself from what's around you. So if we were
Right.
gonna go post up and do the same thing everyone else is doing, we might survive and it might
Right.
work for a little while. But I mean, would you get the same response? Would you be up for awards? Which isn't what I mean. That's not what drives me at all. But it's just like
But it's a nice thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
reality of the industry. Like you know,
Awards
vying
are
for
good.
those awards is good. It's really good publicity, and it puts you sort of like within the industry. It garners a certain amount of respect amongst other chefs and amongst other restaurants, and it allows them to more easily and more freely like recommend some of their like friends and longtime customers to try you out. And
Is it
Yeah.
cool being on TV? Like, was it cool being on New Hampshire Chronicle, or even? I mean, New Hampshire Chronicle I feel is more interview based, where
Yeah.
Phantom Gourmet
Yeah.
is like you're the chef.
It
You
was-
guys
it
are
was
the cool guys.
nerve-wracking.
Like
I
It was-
think
I
that
was
seemed pretty
nervous.
cool.
Yeah, I was nervous,
Yeah.
but I think Phantom was easier because they came on a night where we were packed in the restaurant. So that's more, to me, that was more like reactionary. You didn't think about what you were gonna say. You weren't
have
concerned
time,
about
no.
You're
anything
just in
but
the
cooking
zone.
because we were getting. I mean, we had a full board and a full restaurant, so they were just filming a normal day.
Take a look around this restaurant. Check out the food, the funky decor, and the craft cocktails. It seems like some kind of trendy spot straight out of Brooklyn or Austin, or certainly at least Boston. But it's not. This is Birch on Elm in Manchester, New Hampshire. Serving locally sourced creative small plates along with some serious drinks, the Birch on Elm is a true passion project for executive chef Nick Provencher and general manager Joel Soucy.
When you're
Crazy.
like sat down and then interviewed, it's a little different and a little more nerve wracking, especially because of the way sometimes you're told to you have to reiterate the question that they ask you. So like for Phantom, when they interviewed us, it's like, okay, we're gonna ask you a question. Now remember, before you answer, you have to slightly reiterate what the question is. So
because you're not
You
getting
have
the
to reword
interviewers,
it.
you're not getting the question from the interviewer.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
so like
just
when I
us
ask
talking.
you like, what do you
Yeah.
want to do with this? You're like,
So
well,
what I-
after this, we'd
Yes.
like to. Okay.
yeah, what I
So-
want to do is,
Yeah.
that's weird.
Yeah, what was actually shown on film was just our response to the question. The viewer didn't get the question from like you. So
It's
we had to
incredibly
sort of-
unnatural.
yeah, it was very
It's
a very
not
unnatural
fun.
way of speaking.
Yeah, you
No
just,
wonder
But again,
I see interviews like that all the time. No wonder they feel so uncomfortable because I'm always like, why is the person answering? Like I heard, like I get
and
it.
you
but-
it makes you feel tense because like here we're just talking and bullshitting and
Right.
you can just be yourself and relax, but when you have to think about wording a sentence with you don't think about how unnatural it is till someone asks you to do it and you're like,
Right.
I wouldn't say that. Like
That's
that.
cool. So what's
But
next? What's the next big? You guys gonna be on TV again? What do you want to do? You want to grow the? Do you want to open another Noodz? Because I mean, it seems perfectly built to maybe not if you don't want to franchise it, but I mean, it seems perfect for other high population cities.
It does, yeah. And whereas the business model at Birch is driven by constant like application of creativity and imagination, Noodz is a little more structured, and the way that we built the menu and the way that we built the business plan and the style of service really lends itself to the QSR, quick service restaurant, like
Yeah.
multi-branch, like franchise model, but. Like it's only been 10 months, so it's hard to say there. There's definitely that opportunity for growth written into the DNA of the business, but time will tell. I'd love to, but as far as what's next, Nick was just contacted by Food Network, so that's
I
pretty
might fly
cool.
to California next month.
So my
That might be
question at the end of the
nerve-wracking.
show was gonna be, which we're nearing the end anyway. So it was gonna be if you could be on a Food Network show, which one would it be? And if it's the one that they're flying you over, you don't have to answer me. But when you watch, are there shows where you go on there and you're like, I want that? Is it Chopped? Is it?
It's not Chopped.
Grocery Games, whatever.
Yeah,
everyone wants to do Iron Chef.
Iron Chef would be probably my number one. They contacted me about getting on Guy's Grocery Games, which I'm excited about because I know Bobby Marcotte, who's the chef owner of Tuckaway Tavern. He went on twice, and he seemed to have a great time with it.
He's been on?
Yeah.
How has that not been more publicized? I feel like that I would have watched specifically, because I watch that show all the time. I guess I didn't notice. I gotta get on top of that.
He does a lot of self-promotion there, and I mean, Tuckaway already has an enormous audience.
Yeah, that is insane. You can't even get in there on Monday. It's like,
you can't get in there at all.
Right.
Without an hour wait. But it's just like, that's the thing. But so, is that what you...
that's what they contacted me about. I'm pretty excited. It should be fun. It looks like a great time, and it's playful. It's
Right.
The big thing for me is I'm excited because you have a babaseline of what you need to be doing, but you get to pick a lot of ingredients and still take your creative nature into it. Because with Chopped, I wouldn't want to do it. I have a pretty vast knowledge of product, but there's certain things where it's like, I got to tell you, man, I don't want to cook with gummy worms on the off chance I get that. Or like dehydrated watermelon, which you could do cool stuff with, and I could make something, but I feel like the Grocery Games actually gives you an opportunity to make good food. I feel like sometimes when I watch Chopped, they're judged, and it's like based off as good as it possibly could be. It's not like this is actually good food, but this is really good for using these weird things.
You made something palatable with like sour rings, like sour peach
I didn't
rings,
throw up, so I think you won.
Yeah, you had broccoli, gummies, and bacon. Good job. Like, we're really proud of you.
Awesome.
No one's sick right now.
I think there's a huge part of the industry right now, especially within our demographic, that got into cooking because of shows like Iron Chef and because of shows like Parts Unknown, and to be like reached out to by Food
It's pretty
Network
sweet. There's also a lot of people that leave the industry because when they get into it, they realize it's not like that.
You're not a TV star.
Yeah.
Oh, they
not
realize
glamorous.
it's not glamorous.
Not at all.
But so you have to love it. Yeah, but I think that's in every industry. I think people get into it thinking that this is going to be the greatest thing. I'm going to make this and I'm going to be famous. And it's like, you're not. But if you become amazing at your craft like you have, the first thing I thought after I left Birch the first time was like, he's got to be on TV. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
the way you cook is so good. Like, people need to know more about you guys and the way that you built your restaurant. And I mean, it was amazing. Like, I told everybody I met, like, the next week.
It's an interesting spot we're in because we get a lot of people who come in.
2 people in, but I'm glad it, like...
That we have, I couldn't even guess what the percentages of people that come in from out of town on business at the Birch, especially.
Yep.
But the amount of people that have commented on the bar program and the food from Cincinnati, Boston, LA, Chicago, we're like, man, if you guys like moved this to one of these cities, it'd be incredible.
Yeah, the amount of times we hear every week, if you had one of these and enter city name here, it would kill it.
And it'd be great. And I think the product, I'm very confident the product would stand up to any major city and it would be successful anywhere, but there's something special about it being here, and I think it's cool, and I wouldn't trade it for that. I think, we have our thing.
Having people come to you. I mean,
and
I
you
think
develop,
people from all over
it's
here
kind of helping
Birch.
develop an up-and-coming city.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Rex is built, just opening soon behind us.
Very
so things are moving. Hotels are coming up.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting time to be involved in the city. So why do it somewhere else, really?
We're lucky to be in Manchester.
Yeah, when I moved to Manchester 8 years ago, about 50% of the storefronts on Elm Street were all vacant.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case anymore.
No, Elm Street actually wasn't even nice to walk on.
The mill buildings were empty. Storefronts were vacant. There was very few like buildings down here. But I mean now there's 3 huge buildings on Elm Street that are being refurbished and like rezoned into residential apartments. We have 2 hotels being built.
Yeah.
The storefronts are hard to come by now. Like everything's filling up real quick and the population's booming. And don't get me wrong, we have our problems, but it's a good time to be here right now.
I think it's a great time to be in Manchester. I mean, every city has their problems. Every city has to deal with what we have to deal with if it's a major city.
Correct.
And we're turning into the next part of Boston. We're turning into an extension of Boston because no one can afford to live there. And the businesses see that, and they would actually prefer to have people live here. I'm sure pay them slightly less, but also it's kind of a healthier experience. The
cost of living is just not boomed to
here.
the point where it has in places like Boston and Boston suburbs.
When you have people looking to live $500,000 for a 1-bedroom. That's horrible. Like I'm sorry,
Dude,
when you're and that's outside
too
the
much.
city.
I
That's
was in-
horrible.
Yeah,
I was in
that's
Jersey
Somerville and
last
Cambridge.
week.
That's not even Boston proper.
Right. That's not
New York's even worse. I was in Jersey on the outskirts in East Rutherford a week and a half ago, and we were just looking around and just curious. I went on like a real estate website and just because it pops up, knows your location, and it says cost of local homes available. There, I'm talking like, dude, like a ranch just on the outside, like a small, like 2-bedroom, small little place is like 500 to 750,000.
It's amazing.
And I'm talking up here, it would be like 250.
Do you
Right.
know how much home you could buy for $500,000 in Manchester right now?
Quite
very
the home.
nice.
Quite the home.
But that'd be
the
quite a
home.
commute to New York
Right.
City to make the money.
And that's the thing. And I think that's why it's difficult for people. And I think that's why companies, Liberty Mutual, big companies, big tech companies, GE, they're moving their facilities closer to Manchester.
Yeah, we have Oracle now.
Yeah, we have
an
Oracle.
Oracle facility.
We have Amazon now.
Autodesk, Texas Instruments,
Yeah.
Cigna Health, like you name it.
And
SNHU.
those people are happier here because it's affordable and it's a growing city. So it's like being in Portsmouth and it's almost like being in Boston. We're starting to become. You guys are literally the spearhead of that. That's what's cool. You guys sort of helped start it,
Yeah,
which is fun.
We sort of knew when entering into when Birch first opened that it was a concept that appealed to the people that are currently moving to Manchester and not necessarily the people that have been here forever. And it was
Right.
it was a little different for the traditional New Hampshire market. So
I think
And I think they're catching on too. I think they're
think so.
finally seeing the fun.
it was a belief as much in ourselves as the city too. You know, I mean, it's like if
Right.
we didn't believe in the city was going to grow with us, it would have. It's not a very good idea at that point.
Right, you wouldn't have chose that location. That's amazing.
well, we were looking at Portsmouth first and just
Yeah.
landed on Manchester for that reason.
glad you guys
Rent
chose
there
Manchester,
is
Can't even imagine.
not
I
reasonable.
can't even imagine, guys.
For a
Like,
startup, you know, when it's number
right,
one.
when you don't know, I couldn't even imagine what the rents in Portsmouth are like. So, the way I end the show is normally I ask a question. So I was going to ask you about Food Network, which is amazing. I really hope. So, is that 100%? What's the?
I'm supposed to get a call today. You wouldn't believe the amount of process. So initially they called the restaurant. Jeremy, our bartender, picked up and he called me. He's like, "Hey, dude, Food Network just called." I was like, "Oh,
Hell yeah.
cool."
Okay.
So then I called them. I've done 3 Skype interviews, 2 phone interviews, and the guy said, "I've been approved by everybody. There's just one more guy that needs to approve me, and then he should be calling me today." He said, like, speculation would be right now to fly out on the 3rd of November.
Wow.
It's not going to be a fun trip. It's quick. It's like you fly out the 3rd, go to sleep because it's an 8.5-hour flight, wake up the 4th, shoot the show all day, maybe eat dinner, go to sleep, fly back out the next morning.
Amazing.
So
That's a lot of travel.
That's a lot.
And then you have to I mean, I'm guessing that I'm going to be the most jet lagged out of anyone on the show because we're literally the farthest point from Santa Monica.
Yeah,
that
we're as
I'm
far
guessing
away
most
as
people aren't
possible.
coming from New Hampshire.
My question about guys' grocery games that I always wonder is that really is that an operational grocery store that they shut down, or is that a stage? 'Cause
That's a
there's
good question.
so
I read
much
an article
food.
because I was wondering. So what they do a ton of donations. So like the soup kitchens and stuff around their area, the
Yep.
food that doesn't get used before it's
So they
past
really
its
do
prime,
fill that.
they fill it, yeah. And then
So that's a stage that they filled. That's scary. That's a lot.
the first season was they used, they went and just used a local grocery store for the first season. Then the show blew up, and then they bought a warehouse and converted it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because I've always wondered that because it looks legit. They've done a
It
good
does look
job.
legit.
And it could have been like a smaller town grocery store that they just took over for the day.
It partly reminds me of that supermarket sweep show from back in
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
Like it really does.
Unbelievable.
But
That's cool.
I initially, because I know Chopped, I was talking, one of my buddies did Chopped. He was a chef in Newburyport, and I know they shoot that in New York City.
Right.
So I was thinking, all right, this is going to be cool when you just try to take a 5-hour drive to New York or just fly for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I see Guy Fieri, whenever the Rams are on, he's always in the stands at the Rams game. And I'm like, there's no way they fly him out here for the shows.
Right.
So then I looked it up, and I was like, oh,
Other side of the country.
yeah,
Yeah.
gotta go.
Nice.
Gotta go.
Like
across
just
the
about as
country.
far as you possibly could get.
Yeah,
as far as
and
you
I'm not
could
a
get.
flyer.
No?
No?
Not a big plane
No,
guy?
it took me when we flew to Florida one time. I took a couple shots of whiskey to.
Oh, yeah.
settle
so-
the
It was
nerves.
also it wasn't the most comfortable flight in the air because we flew Spirit.
Yeah, it was tight.
It was-
Oh, yeah. Spirits are, yeah, we've done it
Yeah.
a bunch of times. That's tight.
It's a good time. I mean, it's the Florida though. What did it take? It must be 2 hours.
yeah, it was like a 3-hour flight.
Yeah, 3
something
hours.
Like that.
Yeah, we did 6 hours to Vegas and
Yeah.
Spirit. It was fun. It was a good time. You feel a little sketched out. I don't know how well they keep those planes up.
Dude, I don't like.
So what would be like your individual? I always think it's so important to teach people about failure, because I feel like people see so much success, and really the most learning comes from failure.
Yeah.
And like it's clear that you guys
That's
have built
true.
a successful business. So you could always ask like, what's your biggest failure? What's your biggest success? But you are successful. So there's and you've had a bunch of very cool events that we've talked about throughout the podcast about like what were great moments. What were big failures that you had individually? And it doesn't even have to be specifically to Birch, but that, or Noodz, but that like that happened to you and you overcame that and it taught you something. I mean, there's always a failure in your life where you're just like that. You always learn huge from failure. I do all the time.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of micro failures that you have to just learn to move past and pivot from
Right.
that don't necessarily keep you up at night. But I think the biggest one for me has definitely been learning to avoid burnout. And so, like when it does, like when you are putting so much of yourself mentally and physically into your work, you have to know when to take care of yourself, because so many of these entrepreneurs online are just like go, and that's just not sustainable.
Right.
And when you do reach that point where you're just not performing your best, it can actually have a lot more long-term adverse effects if you don't treat it right away.
I think a lot of people forget when they see those guys. You know,
Dude,
they
it's not.
those guys record a lot.
Yeah.
And there's someone they're paying to post that stuff. They are go, but they do take
of course,
couple
dude.
days here. They take nights. They do things to make sure that they
But
calm
it's also
down
how many
and
people?
relax.
How many people don't have a manicured version of themselves on social media?
Of course.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's their personal brand, man.
Right. It's their
So
big
that's
thing.
just
on.
what it is. You think these people don't sleep? It's like you're gonna die. Like that's no one can keep that up. It's insane to try to do. We did it for
It
2
is.
years in the beginning.
Yep.
And then luckily we built Birch enough to like have staff and like I have a baker dash prep person who comes in the morning, so I don't have to get there at 9 a.m. and prep all day anymore. It's just kind of cool. So
I know that was the biggest thing I used to hear was that you were up getting food at 6 in the morning
It is
at
like-
the restaurant all day. I mean, that's tough.
especially when
man.
you're getting beat up. Because back then it was only 2 people in the kitchen all the time. There would be 2 of us on the line all weekend. And it's like for every service.
Right.
And not complaining. I mean, you gotta
Right.
do what you gotta
You
do in
gotta
the
do what you gotta
beginning,
do,
and
but-
it was fun, and I'll never forget it. And it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but you do feel it.
Yeah.
Not like
That's
just
crazy.
wake up every day feeling good. I think that's might be a misconception. Like
Right.
I know you got to keep a high energy and to keep the ambition up, and it's a mental struggle some days to kick your own ass and.
Yeah, not
make
every
you
day is
do
an
some
easy
stuff.
day.
No.
Sometimes you have to wake up and literally kick your own
Yeah,
ass. And
yeah,
be like,
yeah.
today I'm going to be better than even if I don't feel like I'm going to be, I'm going to be
Well,
better.
discipline lasts, whereas motivation tends to fade. So that's the big thing.
Today. And then what about, do you have any, was there like a failure at any point, either with the
I'd say
restaurant or
failure. I was probably a failure from like 18 to 22.
just well, I didn't mean like a whole point in your life, but like, I guess, if you didn't
know what
like
I mean?
that point the way you were.
I think I don't know, man. I think failures. I started making bad decisions at 18, not good ones for probably a 4 or 5 year period, and even as I can, just with the way I would handle my day to day life.
Yeah, whatever it was.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it was drinking too much the night before and sleeping till noon. I mean, I would still go kick ass at work, but I didn't really take care of myself in other ways. And
Right.
and there was a point when I moved out here with Matt to do the foundry, I kind of got out of Portsmouth, which to me was kind of a toxic environment, socially and
probably
physically.
pretty partying a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
Plus, we go back a decade. We're kind of from that area, so
Yep.
you probably knew a lot of people. It's real easy to go out after
Oh
work.
yeah, especially in
when
the
you're out so
restaurant
late.
industry.
Yeah.
And to make it in this industry is that you burn out enough at work to add fuel to the fire. That is not a good idea. So when I moved out this way, I still have some wine and beer once in a while, but I got into the gym and started taking care of myself mentally and physically a lot more, which allowed me to focus on bigger picture ideas than living day to day. And then when we decided to do this, it got pushed even further in that direction. So it was just kind of, being a dumbass for a long enough amount of time kind of makes you realize you don't want to live that way. When you're looking around
Well,
at last call at a bar with a bunch, you know what I mean?
Right.
With line cooks who are 35 years old sitting next to you, you're like, the pushing question for me was, do you want to be sitting here when you're 35 years old at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Well, I think
It's that's not.
some of the things you learned was like discipline.
Yeah,
right? Like
for sure.
You're like, I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm not. When someone says, "Do you want to go out?" You're gonna be like, "Actually, no. I'm gonna." My goal is like to wake up on early Sunday so I
Yeah.
can work with Joel to set up
I got a dog
special
now,
thing.
you know,
Yeah.
two dogs, a girlfriend. So there's all things that, you know,
Well, we're sort of a quilt of our habits,
Right.
to be honest with you. So like, you know, your overall success, and I'm not even talking just professionally, but
Right.
like the way your lifestyle is built on your habits, and your habits can either propel you or hold you back.
Right.
And it's tough to break bad habits,
Yeah.
and it's tough to build good ones, but it's your responsibility, really. It is.
Right.
If you want to do this, if you want to really go in head first, and you want it to be sustainable, you got to practice healthy lifestyle.
I fail every day too, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, dude,
cooking.
I do too.
I fucking there's some that whether it's a special or developing a new idea, it's not like I make a sauce or cook something and the first time is just like
Done.
that is
right.
really
That's good.
that's awesome. It's like that's not how it goes. You mess up things and you know.
And we're all in customer service.
Right.
So, you know, which is everyone I talk to on the show isn't going to have the same experience as me, but it's nice to talk to people like before we're talking at the show. It's just like we're both in customer service. We understand the way people are, and like we're going to make mistakes that, you know, and the problem is that person only sees them
The
with
bad
you.
part,
Like
yeah.
you're working with them and they're like, well, I'm your customer. It's like, yeah, I also have more. And you make mistakes. It's
Yeah.
not perfect, but we always make it, you know, the reason why I think you guys are so successful is you guys are very precise. And when I think, you know, I've been in your restaurant, I don't think I've ever actually seen a mistake, but I assume when one is made that you're just on top of it and whatever
Yeah.
it is, the problem is solved. Because
And we
to be
don't-
honest, I've been in there a lot and I don't
You have
think
to
I've
be.
ever seen.
Well, I think every mistake
one.
with a customer is also an opportunity to fix a problem. And I mean, there
Right.
are ways to flip the situation and, you know, earn the trust of a customer for life if things are handled a certain way.
Even
That's the way we run our business. Is
Yeah.
we are willing to lose money, lose everything. You know, lose all the money we're going to make on a project, anything, to make sure our customer leaves the happiest possible
Yes.
that they can leave.
the restaurant
and show
industry
them that we
is
care.
very. I mean, there's been a couple. Mostly, there's been some time-related things. We try to make sure the quality of the food always comes first. So there's rarely ever a problem with the food, and most of the time it'd be like a misunderstanding of like not knowing that we cook duck mid-rare or something. So
Okay, sure.
it's rarely a quality. It's not really a quality thing. It's always might be time thing. If we get because like I said, 2 guys cooking, 40 people, sometimes 60 with the thing. If that comes in relatively all at the same time, the 55th to 60th person there on that board, it's gonna be a minute.
It is, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But then you go out, we either give them like free macarons or the dessert specials or anything to try to buy them a drink, and usually that will do it.
Yeah.
Though
Because
there's
they know
one
you
time-
because they
ties
know
back
you're
in-
noticing that.
Yeah,
Like you're
you gotta
seeing that
show
last person on the board,
interest.
and you're
Yeah.
already knowing like
I know
have
it's
to go
gonna be
out
a
there and
while.
say hi to
Yeah.
them,
Yes.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's nice.
I tell
Yeah.
them right away. When then when we get hit like that, I look at Caitlin, Joel, anyone. I'm like, is he that guy?
It's going to be a minute.
He's gonna be there for a minute.
Yeah, go. After about 20 minutes,
Just
go
a
over to
heads
him,
up.
say hi
Yeah.
to him. Right.
Oh, not even. It's 20 minutes. It's addressed long before that, but
Yeah, we try
That's
to
a
get
dress
on
line
it.
for it. No,
Because
but
you
that's
know
good,
right when
right?
the
Yeah,
ticket comes
absolutely.
in, if there's a long streak of tickets, the one that gets put up on that board last within a 5-minute period, if it's almost like 10 to 15 tickets, you're like, I'm just like, yeah, just that.
That guy, go see them.
Because
real
what are you
quick.
going to
Yeah.
do? You're not going to compromise the quality of the 14 tickets in front of him.
Right.
So
yeah.
just
We
gotta-
we have our physical limitations just based on
Right.
space right now, too, so that can be tough.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys coming by.
Yeah, of
thank you
course.
I
for
think
having
talking to you
us.
guys was awesome.
Yeah.
I hope a lot of people get to hear this because I think that you guys are one of the many great success stories in Manchester, but one of the most fun right now. I mean, you
Very
guys
definitely unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want
I
to
love
see
it.
some of the food and stuff, find us
Yeah.
on Instagram at the Birch on Elm.
Yep.
Facebook.com/the Birch on Elm. Our website is www.thebirch.restaurant. It's all pretty self-explanatory.
Right.
Noodz' website is currently under development, but we're also Noodz_NH on Instagram.
They have lots of followers, lots of
Facebook.
being tagged. If you just search Noodz,
You'll find it. Yeah.
Noodz,
That's
they'll
the
pop right
logo,
up.
yeah, you'll see it.
It'll pop right up. So thank you, everyone, for being a part of this podcast today, and we'll see you next time.